What's going on, everyone? As we know, it has been a crazy week in the stock market, and we only have one more day left of the week, so let's make it a good one. Looking at the stock market for today, 85% of the S&P 500 closed down in the red. The tariffs against China are now up to 145%. Gold prices are soaring, and we are set for a lot of big, strong moves tomorrow. In today's video, we're going to cover everything you have to know. We're going to look at some historical data as well to see what the market normally does in situations like this one. And we're going to cover a lot of great setups to end the week on a great note. So besides that, Tom, let's get right to it.
Yeah, the market really did take a dump today, closing down 4.38%. Definitely not the best close. I know a lot of people were worried about the circuit breakers today as SPY actually closed, or it hit 7% at one point, but the SPX index actually did not hit 7%, so we didn't quite get the circuit breaker there midday. But Mike, everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Why is the market selling off today? And you know, yesterday we talked about some previous data where we look back and following days of SPY closing or S&P 500 closing at a 200-day low, then getting 97% of stocks green the next day, you know, we could see that one day later, a fair amount of the times, there is a pullback, and the average percent move actually is down in the negative. So this wasn't really an overly surprising move today, and we did start to see that big slide off midday. Now, volatility did come in and start to shoot the market a little bit higher. Trump held a cabinet meeting in the middle of the day, made a few comments, and the market started to come back a bit. But Mike, just looking at that previous data, though, I really do like the 2 and 3 days later categories, though. That gives me some confidence coming up.
Definitely. And like you said, we covered all of this yesterday, and it's looking pretty good so far. Like you mentioned, that 2 and 3 days later statistic does show that the market normally does end up in the green, when you have situations like we are seeing right now. 78% of the time, we do see the market green on a day that would be tomorrow and Monday, which is definitely great to see. And a lot of the time, when the market is green, there are some pretty strong moves in the mix as well. If we specifically look at the 2 days later column, you can see multiple days where the market is up 1.5%, 4.3%, 2.5%, 7.5%, and, all the other data you can see right there. And of course, as expected, there are some red days sprinkled in the mix as well, and some days that are just a little bit slow, but for the most part, the data is pretty bullish from a historical standpoint.
Yeah, it definitely is. Looking at the S&P 500 today, I thought it was a very interesting move, the way in which the SPY fell, and we did see some really good bounces today at that low of day, right around that $510 support level. I know a lot of people were eyeing up that level today, ended up being a very nice one, and I know a lot are also watching $500 again. That's going to be a very big level to keep in mind with the SPY, and that close today was pretty nice. We're right around that 530 resistance. We could end up seeing maybe a good rip up and through here, so that is something that I am watching for tomorrow, in combination with this data here, Mike. And we even have some more data here showing that whenever you get a really good run on the SPY and the S&P 500 ends up going up 5% over the next day, and then even the next 5 days, we do see a lot of volatility in the stock market where it's only going green 34.8% of the time the next day and 39.1% of the time over the next 5 days. So keep that in mind. There's still going to be a lot of volatility, but as you go out, there's a lot more positive data though mixed in, of course.
No doubt. And the way I look at things right now is that Trump has been the main risk. Whenever he's makes super bold statements in the middle of the day that are not expected, it freaks everyone out for multiple reasons. Because number one, his statements are impossible to predict, but also two, they're oftentimes very impactful in multiple different ways. And Trump this week has kind of transitioned to the point where, he's easing up a little bit. I think the bond market scared him in the sense that if we look at yields, they are starting to rise quite a bit, which is exactly what Trump doesn't want because it increases expenses insanely for the government, and that kind of goes against everything he's trying to do. And at the same time, we just saw that he just did a 90-day pause on tariffs for everyone except for China, so his tone has changed a little bit, which in my opinion significantly reduces the risk of him saying some crazy bearish statement in the middle of the day, which is something that I'm going to keep in mind heading into tomorrow while, looking at the data that we just presented.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people have been very upset with all those bearish statements lately, and they're kind of ready for some bullishness. And I know Trump's been making comments saying to buy and all that type of stuff. Today, he did say he wasn't looking at the stock market whenever he was asked. I thought that was kind of funny, but it did have that pretty big dump in the middle of the day. And I will be watching for more headlines. And, talking about headlines from today, I know there was some confusion yesterday. There was originally reported that, that there was going to be those 125% tariffs on China. It came out this morning. It's actually 145%. Apparently, the math was a little bit wrong. CNBC reached out to the White House, and the White House did confirm that, yes, they were right. So it's 145% now on China, which sounds pretty rough. 125% sounded bad, but just tack on another 20%, I guess. My big thing here, Mike, is what is China going to do? I'm really waiting to see some headlines on how they retaliate. That retaliation is really what's going to worry me. I've been watching China stocks like a hawk. Like I'm watching BABA down here around $100, and even some of the ETFs like Queb. And I'm like, gosh, like if these tariff situations with China get much worse, I'm going to be pretty worried about the stocks here.
The only thing that's rising quicker than this tariff rate on China are gold prices. And if we look at gold right now, they hit a record high today of $3,176 per ounce. And I think this is where like the real money is at with this tariff situation, because as tariffs increase, people are just looking for safety. Like there is very little certainty right now, and we are just seeing gold prices rise in a way that is more consistent than anything else, because all of this money that we have, whether it be in the US or China or anywhere else around the world, is flocking into safety right now, as we can see just by looking at gold prices. And that is something that we have seen over recent months, and that is something that appears to stay the case for the foreseeable future until we see some major changes happen. If you look at GLD, this is like one of the easiest ways to trade gold, but even like we mentioned in yesterday's video, ticker symbol GDX follows gold miners, and that crushed it today, and I know some people did very well off that.
Yeah, looking at GDX right now, I was really eyeing up this key resistance over the past couple of trading days as it's been approaching there once again with gold starting to shoot up. And today it started to really get that clear resistance break. And I'll definitely be watching for more of a run here with GDX over the next couple of trading days, Mike. And there's a lot of other gold-related stocks out there as well. I know a lot of people like to look at Newmont, which also broke its key resistance here. But of course, GDX is one of our favorites here on the channel, right? But I'm going to keep watching for this breakout. There is a key resistance coming up around $50, so keep that in mind there. But Mike, with the gold market being so crazy right now, there's something else that's getting a little crazy still, and that is egg prices. Egg prices are jumping to another all-time high, despite Trump predicting the price going down. Looks like they jumped up to $6.23. This is up a little bit from the reading in February of $5.90 right there, so that's a pretty bad sign in my opinion. Now, I will say egg prices, it's not like it impacts consumers that much, right? What's an extra like 50 cents for eggs? But at the end of the day, it shows that these prices are still kind of going up a little bit in the short term, and that does start to worry people. And it's just another fearful thing that I think people are looking at right now in the overall economy.
Yeah, it sucks that this is happening right before Easter, but I guess some good news, though, is that overall inflation has been falling, which is certainly a great sign. We did get the inflation data come in today, and it came in at 2.4% year over year versus an expectation of 2.5%. While this is great news, I think people are more so concerned about what the inflation rate will look like in a few months from now, once all of these tariffs have had some time to sit. And especially once like this trade war with China has matured for some time, because I'm pretty confident that that'll have like a decent effect on things. So it's good that inflation's falling, but I don't think people are like celebrating too much yet.
Yeah, they're really not. This morning, whenever this data first came out, there was a really nice green candle on the SPY on the 1 minute charts. And I think a lot of traders saw the gap down and they saw this little double bottom at 530 and became pretty bullish there in pre-market off that. But of course, when the market opened, all the tariff fears and everything started coming right back into play as more China headlines and everything was hitting there. But I was happy to see, though, that CPI data was falling. It's definitely nice. But like you said, I think the future is really what matters here after these tariff situations start kind of hitting the economy.
Definitely. But we do also have some other important economic data set to release tomorrow. 1 hour before market open, we have PPI data, so keep that on the radar. It definitely does have potential to move markets, but as we know, the tariff talk has definitely been the most important news lately. But of course, keep it on watch. We also have consumer sentiment data set to release 30 minutes after open, so keep that on your radar as well. And then, Tom, tomorrow is the start of earnings season. The big banks are set to kick us off.
Yeah, let's go. Big banks tomorrow. JP Morgan, BlackRock, Wells Fargo, all in the morning. Even Morgan Stanley mixed in there. So in pre-market, be ready for some moves out of these banks. I've seen some news with them. There was even some news today where they were going to maybe do a meeting with Canada to see what could get done after all of Trump's comments with Canada and the banks lately. So I'm definitely interested here. And whenever we go and we look at, like, let's say JP Morgan's chart, we go to a daily. These banks have been dealing with a lot of this volatility as well. Definitely falling off a lot in the short term.
No doubt. So yeah, they'll definitely say a lot, and they will certainly be earnings worth watching, and I'm very excited for earnings season to kick off, especially with all of these big tech stocks in the coming weeks. So that's something exciting and exciting to look forward to. But looking at the SPY for tomorrow, Tom, what are the key levels, and what are you seeing on the charts? Of course, yesterday was the third biggest day for the S&P 500 since World War II. We saw a little bit of a pullback today. We're seeing a little bit of like a shakeup going on here. So what should we watch?
Yeah, in the short term here, there's a few levels that I really do like on SPY, and there's been a good base starting to establish down here around this 484 to like 490 support area. You can see there's been this low established earlier this week on Monday, and then we had a very nice bounce, very close to that low, kind of forming a higher low on Wednesday morning. So I am definitely going to be watching those as supports if we start to break through this key 510 support from today. I think the most crucial level for tomorrow is going to be this 510 support, because if that breaks down, then we're going to have to contend with $500 even. And if we start to break through 500, we might start to see that break of those recent lows. So I think that would be a very scary thing to see that 510 breakdown for tomorrow. As far as resistance, 530 was a huge resistance today. In pre-market, there were multiple bounces there. Even at the end of day today, another rejection very, very close to 530. So if we see a breakout there, I'll be watching for a run up. There was that gap down today. 540 was a nice resistance in pre-market, and of course the high yesterday at 548, very close to 550, is going to be on watch if we do get a good run out of the SPY here.
Sounds good. I definitely do have a bullish bias heading into tomorrow, but of course in this market that can change depending on what news comes out tomorrow and any unexpected events, especially related to Trump, tariffs, and China. So keep that in mind, but I do think the data that we covered earlier in the video definitely does lean towards the bull side, and it will be exciting to see how this plays out. So good stuff there, Tom, and besides that, I think we are all set for some setups and predictions. A stock that is close on watch is UVXY, and it is to the downside. So UVXY has been crushing it over recent weeks as everyone has been panicking and markets have been crashing. While this is great, we have seen a significant change in tone from Trump, not only in the sense where he decided to pause tariffs, which is a big deal, but also, he straight up said that it's a good time to buy, which, should be taken with a grain of salt. But I am not necessarily expecting any giant, crazy, unexpected bearish statement to come out from him at this moment. So for that reason, UVXY is definitely on my bearish radar. And if we see a break below that like $40 to like $39.50 area, that would be a great confirmation that we are starting to see a rollover. When you combine all that information with the stats that we covered earlier in the video, that just helps reinforce this thesis. So either way, UVXY is definitely on my bearish radar, but of course, let's keep our eyes on the news to, adapt as necessary.
100%. I could see it turning over quite a bit as well as the market starts to recover back up a little bit, so I will keep it on the radar. With my next setup, I'm looking at NVIDIA in the short term. NVIDIA is starting to follow a pretty key trend line. Ever since close from yesterday, it's bounced off of this trend line multiple times, and I really like this resistance overhead around $110. If we end up seeing like a clear break above 110 tomorrow, I'm going to become pretty bullish. If we go over to the Bookmap, there's a sell wall of like 329,000 shares that were stacked up there today. So if we end up breaking this very key sell wall, shout out to the Bookmap tomorrow, then I will be looking at NVIDIA to the upside. Now realize there's this trend line going on as well. If we see like a clear jump up above this trend line in pre-market and then a 110 break, that would be a pretty bullish sign in my eyes. There was also some resistance around 115 today at that high of day. You might want to be a little careful as it approaches there, but of course, if we start to get a good enough breakout, we might get a move up to there or maybe past it.
Sounds good. I will also keep this one close on watch, but another stock that is certainly on the radar is Microsoft, and it is to the upside. This stock crushed it yesterday and, of course, pulled back a little bit today, but its price action was relatively consistent, which is a good sign. Microsoft is actually now the top company in the S&P 500. It beat out Apple, which is, nice to see, of course. But as we look at Microsoft, I like how it has a strong, strong momentum right now, and it is holding up a lot better than a handful of other companies, especially if we do see that bull move in the S&P 500 tomorrow. Microsoft does have the potential to have some clean, consistent movement. So for that reason, it's definitely on my bullish radar. In a perfect world, I'd love to see this get back above that like $386.50 area.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear resistance from this morning in pre-market, even yesterday, like right before the market closed. Pretty good hit, very close to there. I'll be watching for that breakout as well. With my next setup, I am looking at BABA to the downside. I'm really eyeing up this $100 support on BABA. I do not like how Trump is targeting China at all. I think that is a very bad sign in the short term for the China stocks. I think that we could end up seeing some more downside pressure coming into, like, let's say BABA, JD, Queb, PDD even, and you can see PDD had a pretty bad close today, down 6%, and if we go to like a daily chart, there is some major support being tested. Now, I will say, with this being said, there's always the risk that Trump comes out and announces, hey, I talked with China and everything's all cool now or something. You never know, right? That'll probably end up happening one day, but in the short term, I am watching this support very closely on BABA at 100. And if we get the breakdown, I will be watching for a downside move.
All right, sounds good there. And besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have CCL to the downside.
Carnival Cruise Lines, if they end up breaking under $17 support, keep watching them down. I really like that level here.
And with the next one, we have MSTR to the downside.
Yeah, Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, and a lot of the Bitcoin stocks had a negative reaction today with the SPY. They're on a crucial support at 260, so if they break below there, watch them to the downside.
And then with the last one, we have Tesla to the upside.
TSLA, pretty crazy setup, kind of like NVIDIA's setup. There's a lot of stocks that pulled back in this very same motion here today. If they end up ripping back above this key resistance at 260, watch them to the upside.
All right, so we have these three stocks on the radar for potential continuations tomorrow. If and only if they break through the levels listed, these stocks move pretty strongly. And just given the reality of the volatile market that we are in, you have to adapt. Any news can come out at any moment and shift direction instantly. So if you get too attached to the bull side or the bear side, you're bound to get ran over. So you need to protect yourself with stop losses or any other form of risk management technique. You can learn all about this for free in the Key Lessons channel in the StockedUp Discord, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. But besides that, Tom, let's jump right into today's $1.2 million big money trade, and we are looking at ticker symbol DKNG, DraftKings. Today, the big money bought the 20 strike call options that expire on September 19th of 2025. Looking at this trade here, it's certainly an interesting one in multiple different senses. We can see that DraftKings is currently trading around $35 a share, and these call options are the 20 strike, which means that the trader here is pretty bullish. This is very similar to just like a stock position, but these options have all the way out until September. So as we look at this trade here, it is certainly a bullish trade that has a fair amount of time to it, and DraftKings has been stuck just chopping around for quite some time now, as we can see just by looking at their charts and zooming out. DraftKings, like many other stocks over the past few months, has definitely struggled, but is holding up reasonably well. As we look at DraftKings right now, I'm a fan of this company for the long term. These options have a few months of time, which is good to see, and I think it says a lot how the big money is stepping in to buy the dip here.
Yeah, this is very interesting on DraftKings. I love that support that you mentioned around $30. That's pretty awesome. As we zoom out, it's really chopped in this range. If $30 gives out, I will get a little bit worried here, but these are very far in the money at that 20 strike, $1.2 million. I definitely like it. Like you said, Mike, it could almost be like a share play as well. I like how the option is very far in the money in that sense. And if somebody wanted to copy this and maybe not go as, let's say, in the money as the big money is here, I think shares would be a smart way to go. Even maybe if you wanted to go a little bit closer to the money, that could be a little bit viable as well. But either way, very nice setup here. And of course, we get a big money play as it's Masters weekend, right? Go Bryson DeChambeau. Let me know your Masters picks down in the comments below.
There we go. So keep a close eye on this big money trade going forward. But before we move on, we have to give a mega shout out to today's member of the day, President in the StockedUp Discord, who crushed it with over $10,000 in gains. Huge shout out to you, President, and it is awesome to see a profit post like this. He crushed it with some SPY put options for 232%. So there we go. If you're into short-term trading, definitely check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to get in on the action. This will give you full access to the StockedUp trading floor, which means full access to our army of trading robots, daily access to the big money plays. You can join our weekly live event and access all past recordings. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long and access everything you need to take advantage of this crazy market. So definitely check that out down below. Don't forget to use coupon code BIGMONEY to save though, because that will get you in at the best price possible. But besides that, we have one more day left of the week, Tom. I know a lot of eyes will be on the market tomorrow, not only because, it's the final day of the trading week, but this week was historic in many different senses. Don't forget all the stats and data that we reference throughout the video, because that could come into use tomorrow. A lot of times history is a decent indication for markets, so definitely keep that in mind. And of course, let's prioritize smart, sustainable, long-term oriented trading habits above all else. Follow the money, stay adaptable, protect yourself with stop losses, and let's end this week on a great note. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.